PM. Call the meeting for public work for February 10th, 2025 at 4:30 PM. So we don't have any guests. Roll call, please.
Sagami,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Hubbard is excused, Lopes Ferrero,
Here.
Lumber.
Here. So item 4, no public comment. Item 5, approval of 11325 public work and utility committee meeting. What's your wishes?
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 6, acknowledge January 2025 water and sewer treatments.
Move to approve.
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
That's acknowledge. Move to acknowledge. Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 7, CIP update. Michael?
Let's see. Main things going on right now, the Schofield Ave project started being advertised for bid today. So that bid opening is in a month.
Michael, did we see any layout of that Schofield Avenue?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a redo of what's there. It's really not
Still would like to see that. I like
Sure.
to see it. I don't know.
okay.
The committee, but I like to see the changes. I like to see how it's gonna look. Because you were talking about some of the island you were planning to move, or?
No, some of the grass, like in the thin strips, that's just gonna become stamped concrete instead of grass, because those are hard areas to maintain.
As
We
I
can
said,
send out the,
I think I'd like to see that, but also I'd like to suggest all the grass area with the ground cover on it. By doing that, we don't have to cut, we don't have to worry about it.
sure,
Little maintenance, just like the rest of it. I
yeah,
think it's gonna help a lot.
yeah, and that was the goal, working with Sean and Jessica Falkowski and the park staff, was minimize maintenance moving forward on those
Yeah, ground
areas.
cover will do that, I know because I experienced that, so
Sure,
I think we should consider it,
okay,
all right?
all right, and
So
then
when we gonna see that?
I can send that out tomorrow morning,
That would be great.
just if you wanna, for whoever wants to look at it.
I thought we should have a chance, if you have something to say about it, say it before they put it off for bed. And then then it's gonna be, well, you can still issue that then.
And still put an addendum out if there is something that,
So when you get that, you please review it, and if you have any comment, send a comment in.
I mean,
Thank you.
for the most part, the curb is getting replaced where it's at, and it's gonna be an asphalt road instead of a concrete road.
Great, yeah, we talk about that
Yeah.
also.
And the signal lights are getting swapped out with new hardware, new poles, new arms.
So when is gonna be the public hearing with the business district?
I was looking at something either late February here or right away in March.
I think we should listen to them and see, because you know some of them
Yeah.
outspoken.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is gonna be coordinating the work, and for the most part, all the utility relocations, or not relocations, like sanitary sewer water main work is majority on the eastbound lanes or the south side. We have a couple water main or fire hydrant replacements that are in the westbound lanes, so I know we talked, when we get to phasing of that, we added kind of a water main patch item so that those items could be done first. Patch back in, and then after that, all work proceed in the eastbound lanes, and the westbound lanes would be where traffic can still flow.
Well, that's what I was gonna say next,
Yeah.
is the access to their businesses,
Mhm.
mail and garbage pickup.
Yep,
At least some of them, I know their mailboxes on the property,
Yeah,
so that make it easier. But the ones some on the street, I think those are being an issue, so if you could explain to them where they're gonna be, how it's gonna be in.
yeah, and so that's part of the hard part is we don't know those details until the contractor, whoever it is that bids on the project gets it. They then are responsible for coordinating with the postal service. We're not allowed to do that. It has to be them. So sometimes we don't have those answers. We can put in the plans that the mailboxes have to be here. And that used to fly 10 years ago, but now it's the postmaster that ultimately decides it and.
Well, that'd be fine,
Yeah.
but we'll work with them, that's okay. But at the same time, the other thing is the traffic pattern.
Yeah.
Is he providing a plan for traffic?
Yeah, in general, we said traffic has to always be flowing one lane in each direction.
Yeah.
So. But again, we didn't wanna dictate and said, this is what you have to do first, second, third, fourth, cause
No.
then you,
But
yeah,
it should be, all the business should have access to the.
correct,
business.
yeah, and that is.
And no exception to it, that's
Yeah.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
okay.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yep, no, and then the other, I guess, the signal lights at Mesker and Schofield Ave are up and running. There was a damage to traffic eye when those got installed last week, so they'll be back with this Wednesday to replace that.
Is that when they weren't working?
Yeah, and even today, I mean, I went out there a couple different times and it seemed like if you're on Mesker, anywhere from 50 to about a minute 15, they were switching, like that was your pause on Mesker Street, so free flowing traffic on Schofield Ave was getting a little over a minute in between stops. So, but yeah, that might be part of it is there's only one functioning,
Okay. Yeah, I was
Detector
trying
right
to
now.
get there yesterday, I'm like, what is going on?
yeah.
Where is the eye, where is it located?
They're on top of the mast arms over Schofield Ave, so there's one over the eastbound and one over the westbound. I couldn't tell you which one is or is not working at the moment.
Well, this, each of them control one of the. one.
Yeah, so I don't, however it looks out to detect cars coming or stop traffic. So instead of loop detectors, this one has the video detection,
Mhm. Okay,
so. Yeah. So we're still working through those kinks. And then. Yeah, had a couple different design meetings with Fuller Street project and the various Ross Ave projects last month as well. Which I have the kind of a draft layout of the roundabouts at Ross and Metro and Ross and Alderson in the packet later on here. So. Other than that, just trying to keep things moving and
look at the drawing for Metro. That roundabout,
yeah, we can save that for item 12, I think it is.
right? Anything else, Mike? A question for him?
Do we know what grants we might be? Is it starting to come out yet for spring or is it too early yet?
Yeah, I guess this would be the year where, like a lot of the traditional road, funding grants come through. They're generally due in like October of the year. So, unless there's trying to think, is there a new state budget passed this summer? Yeah, okay. So yeah, so generally in July, when the state budget gets passed, that's when the funding levels for the fall submittals is known. So like our local road improvement program budget will get allocated, so Schofield Ave is getting 2.6 million out of that. Weston Ave, the joint project with Rothschild's like 700 some odd thousand from that pot. Bird Street a couple years ago was about 500,000. And then our STP, our surface transportation programs, where the Ross Avenue projects are all out of. That gets reallocated every year based on how much money was spent by your metropolitan area, so. I think think the city of Wausau finished up a project last year, so that money will get reallocated back to a pool, so.
And do we, and just as a, because if I remember this correctly, it's like if you, what you want to do is avoid the gap year where you've got like a big lump spending and then you don't have that much. You try to smooth it out so you're eligible for, is that how that works again?
A little bit, yeah. As far as like that, the MPO funding for the STP projects, that's how, like if you're, so the WASA MPO is allocated, say, $2 million. And if all that $2 million is still tied up in a future project, then there's no money until those projects get finished. So, like I said, our ROSAF project with Schofield, our ROSAF project with the county, and our ROSAF project with the town all fall into that category, so until 2027, 2028, when those projects get built, that's what's maybe $7.5 million of that pool of money right now that's tied up, but WASA has some projects. I think the city of Mosinee has a project. Marathon County Highway Department has one, so generally every year, one project falls out of that group because it gets constructed and, you know, say roughly maybe another $1.5 million, $2 million gets put back in, so. And then as far as our own funding, I guess, for our transportation aids, the downfall of grants is any money you get in grant funding, you can't count towards your transportation aid spending. So, if we get $5 million in grants and we spend $6 million on streets, we say we spent $1 million on streets. So even if we have grant funding in projects, we still try to have a non-grant funded project so that we're not just having these, like I said, the spikes.
And do we have to have anything ready to go in case funding becomes available? And I know that's
Yeah.
I just know in other years, like all of a sudden, okay, we got to scramble, there's money. And if we have
Yeah.
something that we can shovel ready, we can.
Yeah, the bill funding was different with kind of that ARPA COVID relief stuff. Like Northwestern Avenue was a quick, you essentially had 4 or 5 months to get a project set and ready to go per the DOT standard. So we had to find something that was a classified street, didn't have any utility issues as far as, you know, WPS or Frontier, somebody like that having to relocate. We had no real estate acquisition. We had no sidewalk or ADA compliant issues. So we had a very narrow scope to really look at for those projects.
Is that money exhausted, so we don't have to worry about that?
As far as I know, yeah, unless the new administration comes in and says, here's this new pot of money out there. But I guess one of the goals moving forward, you know, with Ike on board is to have at least maybe a project or two that's shovel ready, I guess. So we have a few that we'll be starting design on this year that we got survey data for.
I thought they were ranking the project, Marathon County,
We do.
so whoever get first at the top, they're number 1, number 2, number 3.
Yeah, but then, you know, generally I don't. I want to phrase it. So that's one of the issues I kind of have with the program is they're projects that we're probably going to do no matter what. So whether we get ranked 1st or 5th, it's going to go in the village's capital plan. So sometimes I wonder, are we spending that money the right way? Because these companies are doing that project. And sometimes unfortunately it delays our projects because now you're stuck to the DOT saying, you'll get this money in 2027. So even though we might want to have it done in 2025 here, we got awarded a grant in 23 and we have to wait 4 years before we can take on that project, so.
Yep. Okay. Other question?
Now that the right of way issues on Weston Ave are dealt with, do you think West or MSA will be able to get working on that Cedar Creek interceptor?
So the plat is adopted. The right of way negotiations have not been completed yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, soon
Who negotiated with restaurant,
for the,
Cedar Creek?
no, there's some private property owners.
Oh, okay.
That one stems back to the pipeline was the easements were made based on a reference line and the pipe was not installed exactly per that reference line. And that reference line also goes through wetlands, so. Last time we were talking to the DNR, they wanted us to get out of the wetlands to make our access road on the upland portions, which wouldn't have even been within our original easement anyways. So we have to, I guess, prove good faith effort that these property owners are saying no and the wetlands are our only option.
Okay,
There's a little bit there.
then in here, some of this project, you have a punch list. Is this punch list getting to the contractor or being developed with the contractor?
Yeah, so like
Who's
East,
doing it?
yeah, so East Jelnik and the Weston Ave projects, we had walkthroughs before the snow fell
With the contractor.
with the contractor, yeah.
Right. And then you give it to him in writing,
Correct, yeah.
here is a list and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, they're fully
question?
aware.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just say they're fully aware of what they need to do to get the project completed in the spring here.
Okay. No other question? Item 8, street operation update.
Earlier in the month, we had some freeze ups of storm sewer, driveway culverts from the thawing and the extreme.
Excuse me, where's all that water come from? Just melting or what?
That's out of a spring. It's spring fed, like up and behind the high school, off of
Okay.
Alta Verde Street. It just flows down through a ditchway, through a backyard, and there's a cross culvert in there that drains into the ditchway and then drains into the storm sewer, so.
Okay.
The water eventually slows down enough to freeze up and you have to go in and thaw it out. That's one of our main problem areas, kind of deal with it every year. We also had a couple driveway culverts on the north side of mainly facing north that we gotta thaw out. Where there's water, some pumps are constantly kind of running, wet areas. So we're able to get those opened up with our steamer. We also were able to perform the outfalls, rehabs that we need to get done. To access people on people's properties on our right of way, so we don't rip up grass with the ground being frozen.
Question.
Yep.
That outlet is on DJ, right?
Correct.
That's the end of the pipe.
Yes,
Those riprap you got in there are too small. They were gonna get washed off away with the first rain.
the top ones are just like we added bigger boulders.
I'm talking just the bottom part, right after the pipe.
Them and rock were originally there. We didn't have those.
They've been there already?
Yeah,
They were existing before we came in. It's actually what, to the left of that picture is the main reason why we went in there, because the bank was eroding by the person has a retaining wall
Yeah.
that butts up to there, and the bank was eroding. So we fabricated it and filled it up with boulders and then put the 6-inch rock on top of it.
Because that water coming out of that pipe, there's a lot of.
There's a lot of it.
Force on.
Yep,
It shoot up practically.
yes.
Okay,
So yeah, we had that one on the Duke and then we had another one on Morning View. We were able to get those rehabbed. They're still doing right away brushing, either by hand or in bucket truck and or machine. Just finding areas that are visibility is hard to find. We're coming up to a stop sign. We brushed it out. Still managing the Ryan Street drop site. Since there's a lot of brush and trees holding over the winter, we stack it up a little higher, make a little more room before we have it chipped. And then for this past weekend was our first major snowfall of 10+ inches. Kind of did it in a 2-shift deal where we came in early morning, did full route, took a few hours off, came back in towards the end of the snow event to clean everything up. We had all staff from parks and utilities on hand, plus the DPW, everybody made themselves available to get through that snow event, so it went relatively smooth. It was about 12 days for that day, so. And out of everything, we only had one somewhat complaint, so filed, so. I would say the snow plowing operations went pretty smooth.
Okay. Could you put the corner of the Ross and Camp Phillips on the schedule also when they get around, clean it up with the brushes?
You want the
Right on the
trees?
corner there, right? I think the last time they did it was what, 2 years ago, Michael?
Like the underbrush,
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
yeah, if they have time.
Okay.
I just put them on the schedule whenever time come up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Question? All right, item 9, utility operation update.
So we have some of our miscellaneous well maintenance items here, a couple leaks and repairs. We did have a main break last month.
Gosh, when you get those leak, do you get the complaint too?
Like our chemical leaks,
Yeah.
complaint,
Chlorine, lack of chlorine.
no. I mean, it's literally just, sometimes it's not a leak. I should just take this off of here, but it's just, they put time in to repair some of these, but it's
Yeah.
not like it's a leak. I mean, it's like a sink could drip once in a while, or you just see moisture. It's not that we're not dosing the chemical that we need to. It's just wear and tear of having caustic or wear and tear of having chlorine pumping through there, so.
I know one time, remember, I brought it to the meeting because at my house, I could smell them practically when I opened the water,
Yeah,
and Mark had the same complaint too. so-
okay.
But if it is that low,
Well, and sometimes that's, if you can smell it, it's actually, sometimes you're not having enough. The chemistry doesn't make sense to me, but that's what I've read, so.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's just, I mean, they're minor. They go in there in their daily checks at the wells and they'll see some shininess, or they'll see if they need to swap out a hose or a fitting or something like that, so.
all right,
Sometimes it's just an O-ring that gets replaced.
Yeah, but it's time consuming and they put it on their report, so I put it on my report, so.
okay, thanks.
Sure. So you all saw the main break, I'm sure. Well, I guess it wasn't technically a main break. It was a leaky valve that's of the same vintage as some of the other ones along Schofield Ave and kind of by Camp Phillips there, where some of the bolts kind of just rusted away. So I think we might have a project in the works to maybe move or relocate to put some new valves in so we don't have to shut off the whole the lifestyle center and the animal hospital, and the valves that work just aren't in awesome positions for those businesses to stay open when we have something near that intersection. So we probably have something down the road that we're gonna have to take care of. With some of the weather, we're getting after some of our inside work. Our guys are doing some water meter testing and some meter changeouts for some of our larger stuff. Organizing some of our water main parts on pipe racks and some hydrants in different locations. Some of the project work is still going. We have some lateral inspections coming through. Our EPA PFAS, we've been sampling for EPA with our temporary system and providing them results, or providing them samples that they analyze for us, but that's been put on hold as the new administration comes in. So I'm not sure what the new administration's feeling is going to be on some of this kind of proactive testing for some PFAS and other contaminants, but on kind of the PFAS note, we did get our final claim, or our claim was finalized for our 3M and DuPont submittal that we had turned in. So I guess now we just wait to see where each well falls on our PFAS score to see how much money we're gonna get for each well. So that should be turning around shortly. There was a kind of, you could file an appeal, but I think the appeal closes today. So we should be starting to kind of start seeing when some of this money might be actually rolling out to us. There's a second claim then with PFAS with Tyco and BASF that I have to turn around, and that'll be submitted by April 8th. I don't think they're as big a dollars as 3M and DuPont, but it's still gonna be something, so. I think I can hopefully just upload what I put together for 3M DuPont, that would be nice. So we don't have to regurgitate work.
What do you say ballpark?
I mean, from, I don't know, what was our,
I think
Our
we're,
wealth-
I think we're around 2 million for
Yeah.
the first round.
I think we were looking at about 2 million in total, so, I mean, it's based off of what your contaminant level was, were you able to operate the well? Like, well, 3 will get more out of because it's based on your flow rate and how much you're pumping, and then kind of the level of contamination in the well, so how much it hindered you, if you had it shut down completely, it, you know, based on how much you had to provide, you know, you get a little bit more money, but yeah, I think 2 million or so would be what we were hoping for. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see what the final, I don't think they had a final. It's basically your PFAS score versus your gallons pumped, and then you find it on there, and you got to interpolate where you might fall. So I started doing that, but then it was just kind of an exercise and wasting time, it felt like, because they're gonna tell us what it is once we submitted all our information. So hopefully they can turn around and get us kind of that finalized matrix. We got to see where our PFAS scores fall, and then we can get a better idea for some of our money we're gonna be getting from that.
And we have a secondary claim too for costs that we've expended to date for PFAS treatment for like our temporary system. So
Yep.
we'll submit that too once we have that wrapped up and our full long-term plant is up, so.
Question for Josh?
So sewer side of stuff, I guess we just had a couple freeze ups. Our Trotzer station had a couple frozen check valves. It's not a very active station, not a lot of users on it yet. We are analyzing our pH probes. We're gonna be acquiring a few additional probes for our sanitary flow, so we can kind of analyze the system a little better when we get some excursions with some pH spikes and flow spikes, and we can kind of actually get a little better idea of who we might need to be communicating with about some of these excursions. Some other interior work the guys have been working on. We have a new televising setup that's getting put together. We have all our new televising camera gear, so our guys are kind of retrofitting one of our older vans to be able to use for our new televising equipment. Had just some general generator maintenance. Our SCADA stuff seems to be closer, I hope. I don't know, did we meet after last meeting?
Yes.
So yes, so the AT&T issue was resolved. Then our IT director, Nate, had kind of got with one of our outside sources who works with some of our networking, and he had found some maybe inconsistencies with some of the stuff that we were seeing, we were available to reach out to. So we got some background networking stuff that is way above most of our heads. So they're going through to check some of our networking stuff. So I think some of our remote sites that we want to have on our SCADA will be available. It just, there was the SCADA would get bogged down at times. And so we kind of feel this is kind of the reason why it was getting bogged down, is because it was, I guess if Michael and I want to talk, it's not going here to here, it's going to here to here to here to here. And then it gets to them. So it's just kind of a little bit slow going through our network, because there's other things on it that were kind of built onto as different things were coming onto our SCADA at some point. So cleaning up some stuff right now. I think we had a new kind of schematic drawn up in the end of last week. So I think they're waiting on a switch that's going to help with some of this stuff. So we'll leave PJ Quarters to get that switch, and we should be in better shape. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have maybe a full SCADA system going. Other than that, just kind of some diggers locates the guys did, some work orders, contract stuff. It's not too much different from previous, other than we are doing our uncontrolled contaminant monitoring rule number 5 this week. That is an EPA sampling where we're sampling for additional PFAS contaminants. I don't think lithium is on this round. So there's kind of one set in February, and we have to do a second round, I think June or July. So testing for more PFAS and some lithium. So
Who's doing the testing?
we take the samples, then we ship it to Northern Lakes, and then Northern Lakes runs it based off of, EPA has some different sampling methodology than the Wisconsin DNR. So they use, I think, 533.7, which is a little different with some other components to kind of be able to analyze for different types of PFAS stuff. So, but there's 29 other PFAS they're testing for and lithium. So we'll see what they come back with and when we get the results. Hopefully it's not years from now, but other than that, it was just some of our water pumpage and lift station hours and customers added. And I have started on, I think somebody had asked to kind of get a trend line to see what contaminants are maybe per well. So we have some of that. It's just kind of digging through to make sure we can have something that looks useful than just lines on a page. So we're gathering some of the information and making sure we got as much as we can to start tracking some of this stuff.
Okay. Anything else?
So are there really only 2 wells that are doing the vast majority of the supply at this point?
Well, so we have well 6 kind of in the northeast, that's pumping, and then well 4, then we have 7 and 8 over here. And 1 and 5 is still pumping. We're kind of,
So do you rotate them then, so to speak, or?
we try to get most of 7 and 8 and 4. Those are kind of our best producing wells now. Well 5 had been off due to some, we had changed out a check valve, which the check valve had some communications in there and controls that told it when to operate. And when that check valve was taken out, there was some communication issues where the well wouldn't be able to run in auto. So we had started up the last couple of weeks, but if we don't have to run it, we don't want to run it too much because it has iron and manganese in it. So we do try to mainly get well 7 and 8 running and well 4.
Because that's where your best
Yeah.
water is, what you
Yeah.
test today.
Okay. Yeah, so if you look at that, like well number 1 and well number 5 are very low compared to what we run the other wells at. So yeah, 6, 7, 8 are 4, 6, 7, and 8 are high quality wells. Pretty much no iron, no manganese. And once treated, no PFAS for well 4.
So the other wells, then are you working on like a reclamation or a project to?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I think last month kind of talked about, once well 3 and 4, we finished that work with that treatment plant there. Then wells 1 and 5 would be next in line. So kind of working our way down the road there. Had PFAS never happened, wells 1 and 5 actually probably would be the one that we're in the process of constructing, and 3 and 4 would just be running as they were. So.
Well 5 at the old business district in the Schofield Avenue, and is not good. You got too much iron, there's manganese, and I've seen the water heater just goes out fast.
Yeah, and that's why we're pretty much only running it 1 day a week, just to keep it active in case we absolutely need it. But
Sure.
for the most part, it's not being used a whole lot right now.
Sure. See what, December and January, you almost didn't run it at all, right?
Yeah, so it was rehabbed in December into January, so it pretty much wasn't used for those 2 months. And with the winter, we don't have a high water demand, so we can survive with wells off.
Okay. Question for Josh? I think, our water is the issue. We gotta take care of it and everybody complained, let's put it that way. Because of the iron and manganese. Before we didn't have problem with the PFOS because we didn't know it. So nobody talk about it. Until somebody discovered that and here it is. But iron and manganese, I think is, all of them have it, although the new two wells, they don't. But is above the rock and that's where you get them.
Well 6 doesn't have iron manganese issues, nor does well 4. But 3 did, and 1 and 5 do.
Yep.
It's well 2 too, but that's
You know,
its
they're
own
not
system.
deep well either, was 90 to 100 feet deep.
Yeah, that's pretty much where they all are.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Josh.
Mhm.
Item 10, policy discussion and recommendation. Weston Avenue, Alderson Street to Birch Street, multi-use path lighting. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a strong opinion on this one.
When we talk about this,
Yes.
some area definitely need it, and this is.
Yeah, so
maybe, but
yeah, so this one is, the option C, or the third option that was here would be a low output LED on a 25-foot mounting height and a short arm, so that's not extended too far over the roadway there. It's kind of more be on the south side trail, but the intense lighting or the higher lumen output does cover what would be the roadway. It wouldn't necessarily be continuous, it'd kind of be a lighted area, but then a pocket for trying to figure out what that distance was, but I think it came out to about 250 feet, and then you have about 250 feet of lit. I know Tim, the Village of Rothschild, also reached out to Van Aert to see if there's other just kind of more decorative trail specific lighting options that could be installed, so part of me curious if, some solar lights on the trail would be what we want to move forward with right now too, but this is what WPS said they could offer us.
that's what is still, there is what, $25 a month?
Yeah, so we'd have a rental fee that's roughly 25.
That's about $300 a year.
Yeah.
Is Rothschild sharing the cost?
Yeah, so they would own, I guess, 3 of the poles, and we would own 3 of the poles.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
I mean,
These are what you said, about 250 feet apart?
I think the poles are about 600 feet apart, so if you think
That's
about
a
it,
lot. I mean,
yeah. So then there's a gap, like I said, say you get 250, 300 feet of light, and then it kind of dissipates. I mean, I drove through there last night, kind of just for fun a little bit. With the fresh snowfall, it was bright, it wasn't dark out. That definitely would be different in, August when there's no snow on the ground.
right, yeah.
So like I said, I don't know if I have a strong opinion one way or another at the moment, and I'd almost like to explore what, some solar powered lighting or something else maybe looks like before we.
I like those solar power lighting because you don't have to worry about expense and that sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, it'll have a larger upfront cost, but
Well, you paid off over a long term.
yeah,
So yeah, you're right. Upfront cost is higher, but eventually it's gonna pay off.
yeah.
Why
So,
don't we just do it there?
yeah, so again, anything we do would be a joint project with Rothschild, so just,
I would go with the solar. I mean, because Wisconsin Public Service suggests it, that doesn't mean that's the ultimate,
correct, yeah, so that's why I brought this one back. This is what WPS said they would be able to provide us if we went with them using their existing poles. And if we wanna do something different, we can.
Let's get
Since
some
it's a
cost.
joint
on it.
project, we can't really do something different though without the partner in the joint.
Correct, yeah,
project
so we need
agreeing.
Rothschild to be in agreement too.
So-
And that's, like I said, Tim, when I talked to him over there, he said he had already contacted Van Aert to look at some other trail or solar powered light option, so.
So we really, I mean, I guess my takeaway
Yeah.
was this should be deferred.
Yeah, we
should
can keep
just-
deferring
should just
it.
defer action until, I mean, until you sit down and talk, chat with him. I mean,
Yeah,
we can decide whatever we want and they can go, we don't agree. And
yeah. I mean, if you said, hey, we really like this option, we think this is a way to move forward, that'd be something I could take back and say, okay, our committee thinks this is something that would be worth, but if we're kind of lukewarm and like, okay, it's an option, that's fine.
Let's get the cost for it.
Yep.
We can take a look at it.
Sure. All right.
So
And then
the,
we can increase the number, excuse me.
yeah, no, go ahead.
We can increase the number of the pole also.
Yeah, so with that, then we'd be paying extra to get them to install new poles.
Right.
Yep.
I think the engineer can design, can draw the illumination radius. Then we know what interval we want to put those posts and how many we needed.
Yeah, so if you looked at kind of what they had mapped out here, I mean, if you take this bubble, you put another pole here, it would probably bleed over and make it a continuous lighting. And I guess that was a discussion. I don't know if we had.
is that a public safety issue to have that much light flooding onto the street? I mean, do we not want that for some reason?
I guess that'd be a question is, do we feel this is a corridor that we want to have continuously lit? You know, from Birch Street to Camp Phillips, we do have it continuously lit with a pole every, I think those are 100 or 150 foot spacing. Or do we want to treat this like a more of a rural street where we only light intersections, or, you know, every 500 feet, we do every other, I think it's 520 feet, we do a 1/10 of a mile, we would do alternating poles that way. So,
I don't know if those intersection is doing really much because they just lit the intersection, that's about it. And if you want a marker at night, that's a good marker because if you look, then you see where they are. But between them, Ross Avenue is a good example of it. I think you drive on Ross Avenue, then you see how dark it is.
yeah, so Ross Avenue is probably pretty similar, where I think at most we're maybe 500 feet in between. But for the most part, I mean, that's not a continuously lit corridor, it's just at the intersections or 500 feet if the intersections exceed that, so.
Still, I think we should look at the whole village and pick up the area needed.
Yep.
And have some layout for it, say, okay, these are the area, this is the cost.
Yep.
And we can do a little bit every year.
Yeah, so I did ask WPS for a GIS shape file or map of all the lights that they have versus one of us going out and trying to map it. So
Sure.
they said they would get me something. I'll follow up with them to see when
Right,
they'll get me that, but
right. So we don't have to make a motion on this then.
no, it's fine.
We come back with the different,
Correct.
all right, thanks. Is that okay? Everybody agree with that? All right. Item 11, pedestrian and bicycle master plan update, consultant selection. Who's,
Yeah, so, sorry.
nice to see you.
Yes, so using a quality-based selection process, we had 5 staff review the 4 submittals that were submitted for this master plan for the village. Of those 4, the highest scoring was a team of HKGI out of Minneapolis, along with R.E. Smith out of Green Bay. And the other ones that submit are listed there as well. The qualifiers that we looked at the proposal quality, the approach, the scope, organization of their personnel, and the experience that they have and other projects that they've done similar to this. And then they also had to supply us with an example that had been approved or accepted by another community. So essentially just sharing the score, and that we'd be asking for permission to go to the next step, which is to negotiate a contract with them along with the DOT. DOT is supplying 80%
Yeah.
of the funding for this project. So that they'll be included on that contract, and from my understanding, kind of dictate the
Yeah, so-
negotiation.
Correct, yeah. So we have a transportation alternative planning grant from the DOT for this project, so. Essentially, we are responsible for sending out a qualifications-based selection, so we can't ask for a cost. And then the DOT handles the negotiations for the cost of the project.
DOT doesn't negotiate. They don't, they just, here it is, do it, that's the price.
And, or they might just tell you, this is how much you get to do it
I'm
for.
glad you made
That's
that
what they
comment,
do.
Michelle.
Yeah.
That's a negotiation with
When I read
DOT.
this, I said, you know, this isn't a negotiation. This is here's a gun and a bullet, and what do you want to do?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean.
DOT has a lot of leverage on these projects.
The last project we had like this, I know there's a lot of back and forth over the DOT essentially denying like a $2,000 increase to the contract, so. They're pretty stringent on holding you to what the grants are worth, so.
So that 12,000, that's the total budget for the project?
No, 60,000 is the total budget, so the DOT would cover 48 and our portion would be the 12.
12,000.
Yeah.
And then, so there's an attachment, showing their proposal along with their example. So there's several pages of information there.
Okay, so there isn't really, when you say a proposal, there's a scope of the work that they're going to do.
Yeah.
So looking at this, who is, so I see the HKGI, but then the other one that's presented here, the brochure says move. Who is that a different company?
So HKGI is the planning consultant. Those two that were just right there shown are from R.A. Smith. They're an engineering planning consultant. They've teamed up on other projects similar, they've done master plans, and they do a lot more on the estimating side, along with typical sections and looking at geometry. I think there's a similar team when we did the Weston Ave planning. I don't know if you can recollect that, Michael.
But move is just what Washington County called their
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, so
This
Yeah.
is what they named it.
That's
You're not-
just,
you're not
that's
looking at
their
two.
example plan.
oh, yeah, so the move one is the example that they submitted that this was a plan that they had created for Washington County in Minnesota. So that initiative was called Move.
Okay.
Instead of bike and pedestrian plan, they probably thought that was more catchy.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can create a.
My
catchy name for
apologies,
it,
I
too.
missed.
So then you have two companies that are really within a few percentage each other on that score. Have you actually talked to these people? And I mean, how do you compare then? You know, trying to figure out the decision-making process when you have two that are so close. Just because one scored a few points higher than the other, is that really the best choice? How do you evaluate that?
I'm gonna let Ike continue because he had the contact with the companies.
So so it wasn't one person reviewing these, it was a team of 5 staff that reviewed it. So their points across all of that were average, and that's kind of how the points came out there. I mean, I see merit to the question and the fact that they're that close. But essentially, if at any point in time, if for some reason negotiations don't work with that first one, we can then defer and go to another consultant after that point. But based on the scoring and how our review team felt after looking at all of them, we all felt that HKGI had the score that best represented what we were asking for in the spec or in the proposal or the RFQ. So, I mean, if they wanted to come and argue, they could have shown up and attended. I mean, I notified them who was awarded. I know a lot of other proposals and selections, it does get tight on the score. We just have to show something that justifies why we're selecting this one over another one. But yeah, I mean, if Mead and Hunt felt like theirs was better over this example that we're recommending, they could have shown up and provided an argument to discuss. I mean, this is gonna go from committee and then ask permission from the board
Sure,
to go in negotiations, so I guess they could technically show up at board too.
yeah,
They have not called me concerned about this, but I shared the scoring after the selection, so.
okay.
I think when they come, excuse me, when they come that close together, both of them are okay, they're good. But at the same time, for people who are ranking them, they should have some scale, something to separate them. It could be 1% or 1 point, but still that's where it's gonna go. So,
Okay, well, so my only, it's just me throwing my 2 cents worth out there.
Oh, that's fine.
Is Mead and Hunt a Wisconsin company?
yes,
And HKG is a Minneapolis-based company?
right.
Or do they have offices in Wisconsin?
The project manager on this from HKGI is stationed in Wisconsin, so she's a planner here in Wisconsin. That Jody, I can't think of her last name. But
Or something.
yeah, and then Ari Smith, their team, they're in Green Bay or the Appleton area, so.
Okay,
I think We Bike is also from Green Bay, so each of the teams that were selected, they do have staff here in Wisconsin that are doing work locally. Snyder Associates, they did have an office in Madison, but most of their offices are in Iowa. And then our SRF had an office here in Wisconsin as well. So they all have some presence in Wisconsin.
All right,
okay.
other question? Okay, who's gonna work with this company? From our side, you're gonna work with them? Or do you gonna work with them, or what's the chain of command here?
I guess I would handle the contract portion with the DOT and making sure the grant requirements are being fulfilled there, and then they'd get brought in as part of the, I guess, the review team, which included several of us in this room, plus park staff and planning staff. So, because this component of the bike ped plan would be then part of our comp plan moving forward too. So I would be probably the point of contact, and then as we need to delegate work or do things, I'd be responsible for that with our internal staff.
There are a lot of information available on this project for Marathon County, because I was on the committee for 8 years.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of work in there, a lot of study, and also there is a road which is marked around, you see the sign around.
Yep. Yeah, and all that was provided and included in
Provided
there.
to them, yeah. Okay, great.
So then, so you get the grant to do the study, and then the implementation is part of that overall, what we're working on as far as the plan.
Yep.
So, how do you actually fund that then?
Yeah,
The work itself?
They're future projects, so by putting it in our comp plan, and having this kind of planning document behind it, we can then apply for additional construction grants moving forward, where we have this information behind it so that these projects would score better. As we come into street reconstruction and, we're looking at a corridor, we would have this to kind of be like, oh, we should look at making sure we address this crossing or this amenity versus building it and all of a sudden be like, that would have been a really good idea to maybe put a sidewalk here. So it's really helping us. So as we look out over the next 5, 10, 20 years in our capital plan, how does this integrate moving forward with our street projects, our utility projects? It's not strictly just, we're gonna go have 20 ped only plans or projects. It's as we are working through this corridor, what do we need to do to make sure we're not regretting that we missed something, 5, 10 years down the line. So,
And I'm not gonna let this go because I
Yeah.
haven't for past 10 years, I would say.
mhm.
Mountain Bay should
Yep.
cross, go all the way across Mesker, along Carzella.
Yep.
Cross Ross Avenue, go on the railroad, take it left, go to Camp Phillips.
Yes.
That must be part of it.
Yep.
My God, how much I work on these things, how much I talked about it. It just didn't happen
Yeah.
because one person didn't want it. Okay. Any other question? I'll accept the motion to award the contract to HKGI.
I'll move to approve, as it's written.
Okay.
I'll move to recommend as it's written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. I think it's a good project. And Michael I agree with Michael. For the future project, they know they should do this and that related to the pedestrians. Item 12. Ross Avenue, Metro Drive to Alderson Street. Project update. Draft roundabout exhibit.
Yeah, so yeah, last month we talked about this project and there seemed to be some interest in looking at where we're at with these current layouts, so I guess I've attached the current iteration of both the Metro and Ross, or Metro and Ross, and then Alderson and Ross intersections. So this one on the screen is Metro and Ross. It's a little more of an egg shape roundabout. It's not a circle.
Why it is like that?
There was a couple hard no right of way real estate items that the city of Schofield was not willing to proceed with the project if it meant upsetting some of these residents with some of the designs of what a traditional circle looked like there.
Well, the thing is, it is a sharper curve in upper part of that egg shape for a truck getting in there. And the other question I had,
Yep.
his truck box is 83 feet long.
Yep.
Majority of the truck are 53 feet.
Yes.
So is that a special truck in that area or what?
Yeah, so this truck is the one that Merrill Iron and Steel pretty much said they needed to make sure could get through. So
And
if
then-
that truck can get through, any other truck should be able to get through because
That's
they're
okay.
shorter.
That truck can turn around on that upper part of the egg shape.
I find that hard to believe, Hushang.
Yeah,
It
so,
goes over the
The
side.
turn to the right is a no-brainer, that's easy.
yeah,
The turn heading west to turn left on the Metro, I see that as you'd have a hard time making that with a regular semi.
no, so if you look, I'll see if I can change layers on here quick. Yeah, okay, cool. Eventually it'll click. Nope, that's the one I think I wanted. Yep. Yeah, so I guess this, like I said, these are all drafts. So the biggest thing as we talked with them was those loads need to get in. So this turn right now, I'm not sure how that truck is kind of jackknifing itself here to get through.
Is that has a curve on it or is it flat?
So this middle right now, again, those are all, so this right now would kind of be like a little raised, maybe vegetative area, but the rest of this is all flat mountable drive over type curbing.
Yeah, because those truck gonna go over it.
Yeah. So, so these are the things, like I said, we're still working through. So I always hesitate to say this is where it's at. You know, the sausage is still getting made. It's not done and ready to be purchased.
So what are the yellow rectangles?
So the yellow rectangles are where the wheels are on that truck, so, these are kind of the back of the trailer, this would be the front of the trailer, and then here would be like the tractor, the steering.
All right, well, that's exactly what I expected it would look like. That the back wheels would be running over the,
I was guessing, I said it's
Right.
gonna go over it.
Yeah, so we're running these truck movements on all these iterations to see how that looks.
So Michael, the blue line is a truck pattern?
Yeah, so the blue line is more or less the middle of the truck as it's coming, and then the green is the outside wheels of the trailer. Kind of, so the path of the outside of the trailer would be here, and the inside of it would be here. So there is the option then of once I find it here. So when these loads come in, our understanding for, oh, that was the other one, there we go. So then the other option we looked at is, as we talked to Merrill Steel right now, when these loads come in, they already are having to drive through oncoming traffic, so they're coming in and leaving with police escorts, more or less. So one of the options we looked at, and they were okay with, because they do this in other areas when they have these large loads, instead of trying to go around the roundabout like every other load, would they want to move through this way? You know, kind of turn into this traffic. Again, if they're already the oversized load, they have that police presence, they're shutting down the intersection to make the corner. So in this option, we would make that all mountable, so they could cut that corner and turn it ahead of the roundabout, so not going all the way around, they're turning in front of the traffic divider, the circle there.
So the vehicle on the Metro Drive going north,
Yeah, so,
he has to stop for that,
yeah, so like I
for
said,
that truck to turn.
so this isn't your typical 53-foot trailer, it's your 83-foot. So these are loads that they have escorted. So yeah, you would have somebody out here stopping traffic, so nobody is trying to go north. And, you know, they would stop traffic these other directions to make that turn.
Yeah, he should stop
Well,
at
how many of
that.
those trucks
Go ahead.
per month? Do you have any sense?
They said it depends on the project. They might go months without it, but then they might have, you know, a dozen a week. So,
That's what I was trying to get a sense of.
Yeah.
Are we planning for an event that really doesn't happen that often? You know, I mean, I understand you have to, but.
yeah, and that's kind of where we're at, is trying to figure that out. So then here's the other one where that same truck, if it comes out their back lot on Pine Street, they have to, again, get permitted from there's a railroad crossing back there. But if they come through that way, then they do have a straight shot and they're able to make that turn. So
That's easier.
that is, yes.
That's the way they should be actually.
Yeah,
They-
so-
Well, do they have to get? I've gotten a real permit before, I can tell you that. It is
Yeah.
not easy and it's not fun and it is a grind.
Yep.
It's like entering a foreign country.
Yes. So
That's my analogy to people, like, yeah, when you have to go, once in a while to set up a crane on a railroad track, oh man.
So again, they just wanted to make sure they had at least one alternate route besides that rail.
And I'm not sure what if they can pull an oversized with a rail, if they're just going over a railroad track.
Yeah, so their backyard, if you looked at an
It's
aerial,
probably not that big a deal for them to do that.
yeah, so that's the route they currently use. They just go straight because they can't make that turn currently. So they essentially said, if you guys can make it, so we have another option, that we'd be upgrading it for them. Cause they currently can't make that left turn with the way the intersection geometry is without jumping a curb today.
So they come down Pine Street?
So currently they come down Pine Street. So we're making it so we can accommodate that other turn as well. So if there's Pine Street is under construction, all of a sudden Schofield isn't calling them up saying, hey, by the way, you can't manufacture this for a while because our road isn't open for you.
Okay, so the drawing in the packet that you gave us,
Yep. It had all those overlaid on each other.
what's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I could,
So what is a 53-foot, what does a conventional trailer look like going around that?
Yeah, so we don't have that turning movement on there, but it does make it work. So with that smaller circle, it makes it around without, it uses the truck apron. So it uses this portion right here, but it doesn't go over this middle circle. So it can still come up here and turn.
53-footer will go around.
It'll go around.
So those curve are what, 60 feet radius?
These ones here,
Yeah,
they could be, I don't know off the top of my head.
what truck takes 60 feet?
Yeah,
The one on the, I don't know, north side? Or northwest
northwest.
corner, that one is good. The one on the northeast corner is sharp.
Yeah, and that was also input we got from the industrial users is they really don't have any semis that come from the west here, and my understanding I think right now this is even signed no trucks north. Or maybe that's the other road over here.
That's the next one.
That's the next one down.
Yeah.
But a lot of the trucks that come this way are coming off of Highway 51. So this through movement is what they're doing, which is still accommodated. And Joe probably knows this better than anybody else, like the way they communicate with their deliveries as they come in, they tell them you have to take Highway 29 to Camp Phillips, or you have to take 39 to Business 51. So they're already telling people, come this way to get your load in here. So right now they are telling people, if they have a load coming from the east, they're not telling them to get off at Camp Phillips and make this turn currently. They're telling them to go to, Business 51 and come straight north that way. So. I mean, I've learned more about logistics and some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Schofield doesn't really want to take, I mean, they've been complaining about not having access to that end of the industrial park, and they tried putting things to block
Yeah,
that other little street. And when they've had a chance to do something along Depot Street,
Mhm.
to this point, they haven't, so are they talking, so there's a couple of old houses that are right alongside the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
To the north of Ross Avenue on what is kind of Depot Street.
yeah.
Are they working on trying to?
I think Pine Street right now is their next kind of avenue to get access back through there. But
So you think they're gonna work on Pine Street to get back there as
Yeah.
opposed to, okay? It'd be a straight shot.
Yeah.
That'd be better than trying to get off of Ross Avenue, near the railroad tracks anyhow.
yeah.
But
So does Merrill Iron? They don't typically come down to Alderson to Ross.
So their raw materials go Alderson to Ross, and anything that's standard size, it comes through there. So I mean, so we went through that same exercise kind of here with, again, I mean, we looked at the current geometry and took this size truck and the turning movements, and we all kind of scratched our heads, like, I don't see how that size truck even currently makes it in that intersection without.
I saw them, how they make it, and you come all the way to let's say if he's going east,
Yeah.
you come all the way 3/4 through the intersection, then you turn, you pull it through.
But with the extended load? or a normal
53
semi.
feet. Every
Yeah.
53 feet.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, as we were looking at accommodating this 83-foot trailer, it was kind of like, we're not sure how they actually do it currently because you're somewhere about 14 feet into that northeast property over the curb, and it looks like from what the truck turning models show, you're hitting a power pole, so I'm guessing drivers are more skilled and the model is probably a little conservative with how sharp you can turn. So, I mean, if they currently are making it there, that's kind of the goal, is to work on that. So this intersection at Alderson hasn't had as much, I'd say, massaging yet as the Metro one, mainly because Schofield needed to make sure they had something that those property owners were agreeable to. Here, our biggest constraint is Green Hex building. It's currently on the right of way, more or less. I think it's 3 feet off, so there's not a whole lot of shifting to the west we can do. So we're kind of in that next iteration of modifying this one to make sure it works for all the turning movements, but the same exercise has existed with going through and making sure, if these islands need to be mountable, or if that truck apron needs to be bigger, or however we need to do it, just to make sure we're making it so that the manufacturing companies aren't being limited by what they can do. And our goal is to help them expand what they're able to get for raw materials and finished product in and out.
I can't believe what I'm gonna say. Maybe we shouldn't put roundabout in there. Put the larger intersection and
Yeah, I think no matter what, you're gonna have some of that,
On the train tracks, ship it up.
cause it is, as we were talking to the Merrill Steel people, at shift changes, that 4-way stop, it does back up. There are issues there, and especially then if you have delivery
Put the light in there,
vehicles.
Put the light in there and light alarm to go say 50 calls through one direction, 50 call other direction. They can even program at certain time of the day operate that way, the rest of the day operate normal way.
Yeah.
They can program that.
And the hard part, I'd say, with traffic signals is now you got poles and stuff. So if you do have a large load, now you've got these obstructions that are limiting that movement.
Put them further back.
We can, yeah. I mean, we can make larger ones, but again, Merrill Steel's, I mean, they've been great to work with. They've given us other locations, other roundabouts that they go through. So that information's been given back to Becker Hoppy and Mead and Hunt, who are working on this. And I think this one is essentially a replica of a roundabout that's in Boston, that they said this is what we go through every day. So
I think we should talk to the driver because the rest of us forget it. He's the one
Yeah.
gotta make it happen.
well, and that's who we're talking to is, I mean, at Merrill Steel, it is their loading guy. I mean, he talked to us about the differential of curb heights because of the torquing on the tolerances that they have, so. I think we're talking to the right people there as far as what
Yeah,
they
because
need.
He's the one gonna say, yeah, I got this difficulty. He can explain to you what he go through to make that turn and get through the intersection.
Yeah, and I think I forget if it was Roy or Luis earlier, I mean, this is kind of an extraordinary example of a couple times a year, maybe a few times a month, or might not even happen for a while, so. So we're trying to balance that, local everyday traffic versus the couple times a year or a couple times a month, type of load, so. And I think we can do it. I think we can make it so everybody ends up happy with how it looks, how it works. So,
Everybody gonna be happy when they turn and they can get through it without a lot of a headache and going back and forth.
yeah,
And take a look at 10 different directions before you can, get through that intersection.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Question for Michael.
Yeah, these by no means are the finished product, but I guess kind of an intro into,
No, you're right, there is a lot of
process.
problem in there.
yeah,
They gotta work on it.
yeah.
So who's designing that?
So Mead and Hunt is the certified roundabout and designer. And
Okay.
Becker Hoppy is our regular, I guess, the rest of the corridor utility
And
consultant.
DOT is involved.
And DOT oversight, yep. So I guess that's part of it too, that this project does have DOT funding specifically for the roundabout intersection control. So if we were to change that, we'd have to go back through the DOT process to see if they would still provide us with the funding.
We're not expert in roundabout, but still we like to see it before I final
Yep.
product.
Yep, yeah, I'll,
And this, the way I'll see it, especially the ag one had a problem. This round one is much easier to get around, in my opinion.
yeah,
There was an egg shaped one. Anyway, we'd like to see.
sure.
Okay,
Okay,
question for Michael on this issue? So we don't have to make any motion on this, right?
correct, yeah, it's just
You said move to acknowledge. I don't know if that's necessary.
yeah, I just put that in there. It's more or less just a work in
Information.
progress, yes.
Okay. Did you make a motion?
No, it's fine.
Okay, item 13. Schofield Avenue, Normandy Street to Birch Street, traffic control equipment procurement.
Josh, if you have to go, you can head out too.
It's fine.
You sure? Okay. Yeah, so with how we saw the lengthy delay and, or I guess just the lead time on the signals for Mesker and Schofield Ave. You know, it seems like if we can get a couple months head start on ordering this equipment, we can hopefully ensure that it can get installed yet in 2025 and we're not heading into winter with temp signals or something else going on. So we contacted TAPCO, who is the supplier of I guess the intersection lighting that went in at Mesker and Schofield Ave, and they also performed the maintenance on the rest of our signals in the village. And talking with the designers, they're really not sure of any other manufacturers that would service northern Wisconsin here. So I guess the raw cost of the materials currently comes to $411,267 and 80 cents. We still have maybe a small adjustment in that with ensuring that everything in there is absolutely needed, or maybe there's a couple extra arms or something that we can do without. But so I guess this would be more of a not to exceed number. I see it only coming down, not going up. So each intersection is roughly 120,000, and then the head crossings are not, maybe 18,000 apiece. Which again, it kind of falls within the estimate. We had about 700,000 total for this work in the project if it would have been bid. So it still leaves a good amount for the installation cost.
So these are just cost of the equipment.
This is just cost of the posts, the signal heads, the lights, the control cabinets, the components.
All these cabinet gonna sit at the intersection?
Yep, so each intersection will, like I
So
said, the
know where they're
birch,
gonna sit, how far away from intersection gonna sit?
they'll be behind the sidewalk. I mean, a lot of them are kind of be more or less where they are now, with trying to get a few more feet maybe behind the sidewalk where right of way exists.
And we're okay, we're not betting it. That's a big number.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter who would bid on this project, TAPCO would be the supplier that they would use. We've done this in the past with, yes, ductile iron pipe on projects. When that was I guess a commodity that was, had long lead times.
Okay, the other thing is, there's a post in there, right? Those are what, aluminum? Those are
Yeah.
posts? Okay, there is a wrapping on those. We had problem on Schofield Avenue. They didn't take a wrapping off and they sit in the rain and they leave a stain on the aluminum. You gotta check with that.
Sure.
And where are we gonna stockpile all of this?
Well, based on what I'm hearing, lead times at a minimum 6 months. So by the time they get here, this project's bid, we know who the contractor is, and we would have them shipped right to the contractor.
Then he can't leave it outside and
Yeah, so
those wrapping around them.
yeah, so those would all be those are all requirements on the contractor.
Do the contractors typically supply the lights?
They would order them then, then you go through,
Normally be part of their quote.
it would be part of their quote,
So the
yeah,
village is gonna commit to purchase this,
yeah.
and then you're expecting the contractor to take that based on.
Their bid is then to install this material.
It's provided.
So the difference in there, you're pretty sure that they're gonna be okay with what's left for the installation.
Yeah, so I mean, that's an estimate, so I mean, their price could be 300,000, it could be 250, it could be 350. You know, everything is, like I said, it's estimated, and we always add a contingency into our estimates too. So I think above that 700,000, I probably have another 50 or so thousand that's allocated for intersection items, so.
In the spec usually writes that the owner have a right to purchase whatever he wanted to
Mhm.
the project. So he doesn't have a choice. You want to put the bed, that's what it is. Okay, anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, if we want to wait, we can. My thought was if we can get a 2 months head start on it.
So where's the budget? The budget is already part of the project.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so our whole project is just under $7 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your wishes?
I move to recommend the village procure the traffic control equipment from TAPCO for a price of not to exceed $411,267.80.
Second.
Discussion. You want engineer add that those information I have?
Yeah, we
You wanna
can,
talk to him?
we can make sure that the wrapping and handling of it.
Or it's not wet, as long as it doesn't get wet, it's okay.
Sure. Okay,
You get wet, forget it, you got a problem.
sure.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. You. Item 14. Green Tree Acre Phase 2 Construction Services.
So the Green Tree subdivision off of Ross Ave, the northeast portion of the village is phase 1 is done and they're looking to get started this spring on phase 2. So I guess per our developer agreements, we hire the inspection company to ensure that the public infrastructure is installed based according to plans and specifications. So Vreeland Associates did the inspection on phase 1, which covered, I think, was it about 20 lots kind of on this northwest side. Now phase 2 is just an extension heading east from there. So I guess the recommendation would be to have Vreeland continue with inspections out on this project. And then any cost that we incur, we then bill back to the developer. So the village doesn't actually spend any money. We just are kind of the middleman between the contract and the developer, the inspector and the developer.
So Whelan as the inspector qualified to do the job?
Yeah, they inspected the Hinter Springs projects as well as phase 1 of this project.
And they get along with the contractor or with the developer?
Yeah,
They have, obviously, I mean,
they have been, yeah.
they have to, but I mean, they're.
Yeah, the developer had no issue with Vreeland
Okay.
continuing.
Who's the developer there?
Green Tree Construction. So they have a couple, so this is the first subdivision in Weston. They have some other subdivisions in Clover, Mosinee, Wapaka. I think City of Wausau, they're starting one.
And how often we do the inspection on the project?
As far as like full-time on site or,
Well, we have this Whelan to do the full-time on site.
yeah.
Do we go on site also?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll stop out. Josh has stopped out. Our utility guys go out there a couple times a week.
So the utility guys, somebody gotta be there when they make a connection.
Correct, yeah, so we're always there when those things happen, when
Yeah,
water.
if they're doing any main taps or anything like that, we'll go out there and do a visual inspection too, and they got pressure tests and all the other stuff that they have to meet, so.
Okay. And all the backfill material inspected to make sure it's good and.
Correct, yeah, and there's material testing that gets included too. So American Engineering goes out there and does backfill compaction tests,
Okay, and road test
road tests, gradations.
and gradation come to you.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your wishes?
Move to recommend the village board approve the construction representative contract with Freeland Associates for Green Tree Acres, second phase for estimated contract range of 42 to 44,000.
Then second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? I have it, thank you. Future item, next meeting, item A to be determined. Be Monday, March 10th, 2025 at 4:30 PM, regular meeting. Topic for future meeting. Need that roundabout.
Yep, I'll keep that on just as a recurring item.
There was another project, we're gonna take a look.
Individual wells.
Yeah, the wells, Josh will we'll get that for next meeting.
And the lighting,
The lighting, yep, I'll see what we get with that.
just add them to that,
Yep.
even if there isn't much discussion on it. Let's have them on the agenda so we know it's live.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, remark from staff? Isaac,
No.
Josh,
Nope, I have nothing else.
Forrest?
Nope.
I would remind the committee that February 24th is our night at Brews Brothers for Kennedy Park. So we had Politos last month and we'll have Brews Brothers this month. So if you go to eat out from 4 to 9, 10%, no, 15% of the proceeds go to the park. I also say that for the benefit that these meetings are recorded and sometimes people rewatch them and then they go, oh, I'll go too.
Anything else?
No.
Michael,
I talked enough, I'm good.
Daisy, you're good. Okay, remark from committee.
My only remark is thank you to whoever had to go out and deal with the water main break on Schofield Avenue, because that couldn't have been a fun day of work. I was driving past it going, oh, man.
Yeah, I saw it, I said,
Yeah. I said, I don't know who's coming to work today, but it's 22 below.
Yeah, it's one of those gifts that,
Yeah, it had to be
your
a,
day's going one way and then.
yeah, that had to be a tough day for those guys or girls that were moved out there.
how deep is that water line? Should be at least
Yeah.
6-7 feet.
Yeah, it wasn't because, it was just the age of the valve. It was just the bolts on the valves rusted away and that's where, it-
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, it was shooting out the valve. It wasn't actually the main that broke. It was just coming out the valve.
I just saw the police lights on and I went, why would you have somebody pulled over? I don't know. That's why.
Good.
So I've never given this thought until today, but I was hiking down the Mountain Bay Trail and I suddenly felt like I wanted to go to Quick Trip. And I realized that there's no sidewalk on the south side of Schofield Ave from Hunt Street over to Quick Trip. And obviously I never think about putting something in for the benefit of one business, but I know Quick Trip is kind of used as a neighborhood grocery store for many people. And with all those new apartments, I'm wondering if that's something we should look at so people can safely get there. Cause I can tell you today, it was not safe for me to be walking on the shoulder of Schofield Avenue. And I know that's something that would probably come out as part of a pedestrian plan and stuff, but
Yeah,
that seems like an obvious one that could be.
I think we talked about that back when we put in there.
Yes, we did. We had, as a matter of fact, I called them up. I said, why are you putting it on the other side of the road? Why not? No, that's where it's gonna go. I said, well, municipal center is that side. People go to municipal center. Why don't you consider that? No,
Either way, it's a short stretch. It looks like our right of way is pretty wide through there up until the Quick Trip property, and it seems like it could be a relatively easy project, but
Yeah.
just something to think about.
Yes, I'm with you. Okay. Joe,
Kudos to you guys with your plowing yesterday. I mean, come in and split your shift like you did to get the main roads first, and then come back and do the secondary stuff. I really appreciate those guys working with the weather and the day, Super Bowl Sunday besides. They did a great job.
okay. Anything else?
Good.
No announcement? I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming to the meeting. That's at 6 P.M.
What timing?
And then for everybody who's online, that was the ending of the Public Works meeting. The Plan Commission meeting will be starting shortly.